If you think you know what it means to face impossible odds and survive against all expectations, wait until you hear the incredible story of Daniel Carter and the blizzard that almost killed him, but instead led to the discovery of a lifetime that would change everything he thought he knew about survival, courage, and the extraordinary bonds that can form between a veteran and his faithful companion. Today, I'm going to tell you about a former Special Forces veteran who was driving through the remote mountains of Montana during what became the worst blizzard in 50 years. Trapped in his truck with temperatures dropping to 30 degrees below zero, no cell phone signal, no GPS, and enough food for maybe one day if he was lucky. Daniel thought he was going to die alone on that frozen mountain road, becoming just another casualty of the harsh Montana winter and his own desperate circumstances. But his loyal companion Rex, a retired military working dog with extraordinary survival instincts and abilities that went far beyond anything his handlers had ever imagined, somehow knew exactly where to find a hidden Cold War-era fallout shelter that had been forgotten by the government for more than 6 decades and contained secrets that would rewrite the history books. What Rex led Daniel to discover in that massive underground facility would not only save their lives during the deadly 3-day blizzard, but reveal a treasure trove of classified military technology, experimental weapons research, strategic intelligence documents, and financial assets worth over $60 million that had been abandoned when the facility was hastily evacuated during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then lost to bureaucratic confusion and changing political priorities. This incredible journey of survival, discovery, and transformation would prove that sometimes the most valuable treasures are found in the most desperate moments, that the bond between a veteran and his faithful companion can overcome obstacles that would defeat anyone facing them alone, and that the courage to trust in partnership and never give up hope can unlock secrets that change not just individual lives, but our understanding of history itself and the sacrifices made by previous generations of American heroes. If you want to discover how this extraordinary tale of survival and hidden Cold War secrets unfolds, and learn how one man's darkest hour became the foundation for discoveries that would transform his life and impact thousands of other veterans, make sure you hit that like button right now, subscribe to our channel, and activate those notifications, because this story will show you that when everything seems hopeless and you think you've reached the end of your rope, life can surprise you with miracles that come from the most unexpected places and change everything you thought you knew about survival, courage, and the power of never giving up, even when all the odds are stacked against you. The first snowflakes began falling as Daniel Carter guided his aging Ford pickup truck through the winding mountain road that carved its way through the Glacier National Park region of Montana, each delicate flake catching the amber glow of his headlights like tiny falling stars in the gathering darkness of late December, creating a deceptively beautiful scene that masked the deadly storm system that was rapidly developing into one of the most dangerous weather events in the region's recorded history. At 43 years old, Daniel was making what had become an annual pilgrimage to the remote cabin where his younger brother Michael had lived in isolation before his tragic death 3 years earlier. A journey that served as both memorial and personal retreat from a world that had become increasingly difficult to navigate since his return from 2 brutal tours in Afghanistan as a Special Forces operator specializing in explosive ordnance disposal and deep reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. Rex, his 7-year-old German Shepherd and former military working dog partner, rode in the passenger seat with the alert calmness that had served them both well during their years of dangerous missions in some of the world's most hostile territories. The dog's scarred muzzle and graying fur spoke of hard service and advancing age, but his intelligent amber eyes missed nothing as he monitored the changing weather conditions and his human companion's emotional state with the vigilance that had made him legendary among the explosive detection teams that had operated in some of Afghanistan's most dangerous and contested territories, where a single mistake or moment of inattention could mean death for entire convoys of American soldiers and their allies. Daniel had been driving for more than 6 hours from his small studio apartment in Billings, following a route that took him deeper into the Montana wilderness with each passing mile, leaving behind the modest comforts of civilization for the harsh but honest beauty of the high country that had become his refuge when the memories of war became too overwhelming to bear in populated areas where he was surrounded by people who had no understanding of what he had experienced or the invisible wounds that continued to shape his daily struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder and survivor guilt. The weather forecast that morning had called for light snow with minimal accumulation, but the reality developing around them was far more serious and dangerous than anything the meteorologists had predicted or prepared the public to face. The wind had picked up steadily throughout the afternoon, and what had started as gentle snowfall was rapidly becoming a full-scale blizzard that reduced visibility to mere yards and made the narrow mountain road increasingly treacherous with each passing minute. The temperature was dropping rapidly as the sun disappeared behind the towering peaks that surrounded them, and Daniel could feel the truck's engine struggling against the combination of altitude, extreme cold, and the increasing strain of navigating through snowdrifts that were growing deeper by the hour. "Looks like we might have bitten off more than we can chew this time, Rex," Daniel said, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel and fought to keep the truck centered on the increasingly invisible road that was being obliterated by the storm. The dog turned to look at him with calm attention, reading the stress and concern in Daniel's voice, but showing no signs of anxiety despite the deteriorating conditions outside their vehicle and the growing realization that they were facing a potentially life-threatening situation. Daniel's annual trips to Michael's cabin had become a ritual of remembrance and healing that provided him with the solitude and connection to nature that helped him process the complicated grief of losing his younger brother to suicide just 18 months after Michael's return from his own deployment to Afghanistan, where he had served as a medic with an infantry unit that had seen some of the heaviest combat of the entire war. The cabin was located more than 40 miles from the nearest town, accessible only by a series of logging roads that challenged even experienced drivers during good weather conditions, and Daniel was beginning to understand that his decision to make this trip during winter weather had been a potentially fatal error in judgment. But this year's journey was different from the previous visits, complicated by Daniel's recent eviction from his apartment due to missed rent payments and his growing financial desperation that had left him with nowhere else to go except the remote cabin that held so many painful memories but also represented his only option for shelter during the harsh Montana winter. His disability benefits from the Veterans Administration barely covered basic survival needs, and his struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder had made steady employment impossible despite his extensive military training and combat experience that should have qualified him for numerous civilian occupations. The truck's heater was working intermittently, cycling between lukewarm air and complete failure in a pattern that left both Daniel and Rex shivering as the temperature outside plummeted toward levels that would be life-threatening for anyone caught without adequate shelter and supplies. Daniel estimated that they were still at least 20 miles from Michael's cabin when the blizzard reached full intensity, transforming the familiar mountain road into an alien landscape of swirling snow and complete disorientation that made navigation nearly impossible, even for someone with extensive wilderness survival training and years of experience in harsh environments. Rex's behavior began to change as the storm intensified, shifting from his usual calm observation to active alertness that indicated he was processing environmental information that required immediate attention and analysis. The dog's ears were constantly moving, tracking sounds that Daniel couldn't detect over the howling wind that was now reaching velocities that made the truck shake and sway despite its substantial weight. Rex's nose was working overtime as he analyzed scents and chemical signals that carried survival-critical information through the storm, reading the environment in ways that no human could match even with sophisticated equipment and technology. "You're picking up something out there, aren't you, boy?" Daniel asked, noticing Rex's increased tension and focus that reminded him of the dog's behavior during their most dangerous missions in Afghanistan, when Rex had detected buried, improvised explosive devices or hidden weapons caches that could have killed or maimed dozens of American soldiers. The dog had saved Daniel's life more times than he could count during their military service, using senses and instincts that went far beyond human capabilities to detect dangers and opportunities that would have been invisible to less perceptive observers. The truck's engine began to sputter and lose power as they climbed a particularly steep section of the mountain road, struggling against the combination of altitude, extreme cold temperature, and the increasing strain of navigating through snowdrifts that were now deep enough to challenge even vehicles specifically designed for harsh winter conditions. Daniel realized with growing concern and mounting panic that his aging vehicle was not equipped for the severe conditions they were facing, and that continuing forward or attempting to turn back were both potentially fatal options that could leave them stranded in the open, where exposure to the elements would kill them within hours. When the engine finally died completely, with a final cough and shudder, leaving them stranded in absolute darkness, except for the truck's rapidly dimming headlights that were being powered by a battery that wouldn't last more than a few hours in the extreme cold, Daniel understood that he was facing a survival situation that would test every skill he had learned during his extensive military training and combat experience. The outside temperature was dropping rapidly toward what weather services would later confirm was 30 degrees below zero, cold enough to kill an unprepared person within hours of exposure, and possibly cold enough to kill even someone with survival training if they couldn't find adequate shelter and a reliable heat source. Rex immediately became more active when the truck stopped moving, pacing back and forth across the front seat and whining with increasing urgency as he tried to communicate something important to Daniel through the limited vocabulary of sounds and gestures that had developed between them during their years of partnership. The dog's behavior was reminiscent of his explosive detection alerts during their military service, but the intensity and persistence suggested that he was reacting to something even more significant than the hidden dangers that had been their constant concern during combat operations in Afghanistan. "What is it, Rex?" Daniel asked, trying to calm the agitated dog while his own mind raced through their extremely limited survival options and the growing realization that they might not survive the night unless they could find shelter and a way to generate heat. They had enough food for perhaps one day, if they rationed carefully, water that would freeze solid within hours unless they kept it close to their bodies, and no reliable way to generate heat once the truck's battery died completely, and left them without even the minimal warmth provided by the vehicle's failing heating system. The nearest help was miles away through terrain that would be impossible to navigate in the storm, and Daniel's cell phone showed no signal despite multiple attempts to contact emergency services or anyone who might be able to organize a rescue operation. Rex suddenly stopped his agitated pacing and sat perfectly still, staring intently through the truck's windshield at something in the swirling snow that Daniel couldn't see, despite straining his eyes to penetrate the white chaos that surrounded their vehicle. The dog's posture was exactly the same focused alertness he had displayed when detecting important targets during their military missions. suggesting that his exceptional senses had identified something in their immediate environment that might be relevant to their survival situation and worthy of investigation, despite the extreme danger of leaving the relative shelter of the truck. Daniel followed Rex's unwavering gaze, but could see nothing except the hypnotic patterns of wind-blown snow that seemed to shift and dance in the dim glow of the truck's headlights like ghostly apparitions in a winter nightmare. The storm had completely obscured any landmarks or reference points that might have helped him determine their exact location on the mountain road, and the GPS system in his old truck had stopped working when they lost satellite signals somewhere in the high mountain passes where the terrain interfered with electronic communications. But Rex's confidence in whatever he had detected was absolute and unwavering, displaying the same certainty that had made him such an invaluable partner during their military service, when his ability to detect hidden threats had meant the difference between life and death for countless soldiers. The dog began pawing at the passenger side door with increasing insistence, whining with the kind of urgency that Daniel had learned to trust implicitly during their years of partnership in Afghanistan, where Rex's instincts had never led them astray or into unnecessary danger. "All right, boy, show me what you've found," Daniel said, pulling on his heavy winter coat and preparing to venture into the storm, despite knowing that exposure to the elements would begin killing him within minutes if he couldn't find whatever Rex had detected. The wind hit him like a physical blow as soon as he opened the truck door, driving snow into his face with enough force to make breathing difficult and immediately penetrating through multiple layers of clothing with cold so intense that it seemed to freeze his blood in his veins. The temperature was so extreme that Daniel could feel it beginning to affect his coordination and mental clarity within seconds, confirming his assessment that exposure time would be measured in minutes rather than hours. Rex leapt from the truck and immediately began moving through the deep snow with purposeful determination, following a path that was invisible to Daniel but clearly marked by scents and other environmental cues that the dog could detect, even in the chaotic conditions of the blizzard that was now reaching its full fury. The German shepherd moved with the confidence of an animal who knew exactly where he was going, occasionally pausing to look back and ensure that Daniel was following, despite the nearly impossible visibility that made it difficult to see more than a few feet in any direction. Daniel struggled through snow that reached almost to his waist in some drifts, using his military training to conserve energy while maintaining the pace necessary to keep Rex in sight as the dog led him away from the dubious safety of the truck and deeper into the wilderness. The dog's dark form was barely visible against the white chaos of the storm, but Rex seemed to understand the limitations of human vision and stayed close enough to serve as a guide while leading Daniel toward whatever he had detected in the surrounding wilderness with his extraordinary senses. The physical effort of moving through the deep snow was exhausting, and Daniel could feel his body temperature dropping dangerously despite his heavy clothing and constant movement. His hands were becoming numb inside his gloves, and his feet were losing sensation despite insulated boots that should have provided adequate protection under normal circumstances. He realized that he probably had less than 30 minutes before hypothermia began to seriously affect his judgment and coordination, making it impossible to continue following Rex or to make rational decisions about their survival. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes of brutal progress through the storm, Rex suddenly stopped and began pawing urgently at what appeared to be just another snow-covered rock formation among the many natural obstacles that dotted the mountainous terrain. But as Daniel approached through the driving snow, fighting against wind that seemed determined to knock him down and bury him in the drifts, he realized that Rex had led him to a structure that was definitely artificial rather than a natural geological formation. The dog was investigating what looked like a concrete outcropping, but closer examination revealed shapes and positioning that suggested it might be part of a larger buried building or facility that had been concealed beneath decades of accumulated snow, debris, and vegetation. The concrete surface showed signs of deliberate construction rather than natural rock formation, with smooth edges and right angles that indicated human engineering and military-grade construction techniques. Rex's pawing became more urgent and focused as Daniel joined him beside the concrete structure, and the dog's behavior indicated that he had found exactly what he was looking for, rather than simply detecting something interesting that warranted investigation. Using his hands to brush away snow and debris, despite the pain of working barehanded in the extreme cold, Daniel began to expose more of the concrete surface, eventually revealing what appeared to be a reinforced steel door set into the side of what was obviously a substantial underground facility that had been expertly camouflaged and concealed from aerial observation. "Good boy, Rex," Daniel gasped, his words nearly lost in the howling wind that was now reaching velocities that made normal communication impossible. "You found us shelter. I don't know how you knew it was here, but you may have just saved both our lives." The door was heavy and appeared to be secured with multiple sophisticated locking mechanisms that had been designed to prevent unauthorized access while ensuring that legitimate users could gain entry even under emergency conditions. Daniel's military training had included extensive instruction in bypassing various types of security systems, and the extreme nature of their survival situation justified whatever measures might be necessary to gain access to shelter that could mean the difference between life and death in the next few hours. Rex stood beside the door and barked once with authority and confidence, the same signal he had used during their military service to indicate that he had successfully located a target that required immediate human attention and action. The dog's behavior confirmed that this was exactly what he had been seeking when he led Daniel away from the truck, suggesting that his extraordinary senses had somehow detected this hidden facility, despite the storm conditions and the expert camouflage that had kept it hidden from discovery for decades. Daniel examined the door more closely and discovered that it bore official United States government markings, along with warnings about authorized access and the legal consequences of unauthorized entry by civilian personnel. The facility was obviously military in nature, but the style of construction and the age of the markings suggested that it had been built during the Cold War era, rather than being part of any contemporary military installation or current defense project. The weathering and corrosion patterns on the metal surfaces indicated that the facility had been abandoned for many years, possibly decades, but the structural integrity appeared to be sound, and the door mechanisms seemed to be functional despite their age. The locking mechanisms were sophisticated, but had been designed for security rather than absolute impregnability, and Daniel's Special Forces training had included extensive instruction in emergency access techniques for situations where American personnel might need to access friendly facilities under combat conditions or other emergency circumstances. After several minutes of careful work with tools from his survival kit, fighting against the numbing cold that was making fine motor control increasingly difficult, Daniel managed to bypass the main locks and gain access to whatever lay beyond the steel door. The interior of the facility was completely dark, but Daniel's military flashlight revealed a long concrete corridor that led deeper into the underground complex, disappearing into shadows that suggested the facility was far larger than the modest entrance might indicate. The air inside was dry and surprisingly warm compared to the lethal conditions outside, and Daniel could hear the subtle sounds of heating and ventilation systems that were apparently still functional despite what appeared to be decades of abandonment by whoever had originally constructed and operated this mysterious installation. Rex immediately began investigating the corridor with the systematic thoroughness that had made him an exceptional military working dog. his nose cataloging scents and information that told stories Daniel could only imagine about the people who had worked in this facility and the activities that had taken place here during its operational period. The dog's behavior was calm and confident, indicating that he perceived the facility as safe shelter rather than a potential threat. But his continued alertness suggested that there were discoveries yet to be made in the depths of this underground complex. Emergency lighting flickered to life as they moved deeper into the facility, apparently triggered by motion sensors that had remained functional throughout the years of abandonment, suggesting that the facility's power systems were still operational, and that whoever had designed this installation had intended for it to remain functional for extended periods without external maintenance or support. The lights revealed a complex that was far larger and more sophisticated than Daniel had expected, with multiple levels and branching corridors that suggested the facility had been designed to support a substantial number of personnel for extended periods of complete isolation from the outside world. Signs posted throughout the corridors identified the facility as Site Bravo 7 and included warnings about classified materials and restricted access that required specific security clearances and official authorization from military command authorities. The dates on various notices and postings indicated that the facility had been active during the 1960s and early 1970s. But there were no indications of when it had been abandoned or why it had been left fully equipped and operational rather than being properly decommissioned and secured, according to standard military procedures for classified installations. Rex led Daniel through the maze of corridors with confidence that suggested either the dog's training included familiarity with underground military facilities, or perhaps his exceptional senses were simply guiding him toward areas of particular interest or importance based on scents and other environmental cues that remained from the facility's operational period. The German Shepherd's behavior was calm but focused, indicating that he perceived the facility as safe shelter, but also as a location that warranted careful investigation and exploration. The main operations center of the facility was revealed to be a vast underground chamber filled with computer equipment, communication systems, and monitoring devices that represented the cutting-edge technology of the Cold War era, when this installation had been at the forefront of America's strategic defense capabilities. Banks of controls and displays covered the walls from floor to ceiling, and several large screens provided views of the surrounding mountainous terrain through cameras that had apparently remained functional throughout the decades of abandonment, creating an eerie sense that the facility was still actively monitoring the outside world, despite having no human operators. But it was the facility's living quarters that provided Daniel and Rex with the immediate shelter they desperately needed to survive the blizzard that continued to rage outside with undiminished fury. The underground complex included dormitories, kitchens, recreational areas, medical facilities, and workshops that had been designed to support a large staff through extended periods of complete isolation from the outside world during potential nuclear emergencies or other national security crises that might require personnel to remain underground for months or even years. The heating and electrical systems were still fully operational, powered by what appeared to be a small nuclear reactor that had been designed to provide autonomous energy for decades without external support or maintenance, representing a level of technological sophistication that was remarkable even by current standards, and suggested that this facility had been considered extremely important to national security during its operational period. The environmental control systems maintained comfortable temperatures and humidity levels throughout the complex, creating an almost surreal contrast with the deadly conditions that continued to threaten anyone caught outside in the storm. Daniel spent their first night in the facility exploring the various levels and chambers, with Rex serving as both guide and companion through areas that clearly hadn't been visited by humans for many years, but remained in remarkably good condition due to the controlled environment and sophisticated preservation systems. The dog's calm presence provided emotional support as Daniel processed the overwhelming realization that they had stumbled upon what appeared to be a major classified military installation that had been completely forgotten by the authorities who had originally constructed it and abandoned by the bureaucratic systems that should have maintained oversight of such facilities. The facility's extensive library and record storage areas contained thousands of documents that told the fascinating and previously unknown story of Site Bravo 7's role in America's Cold War defense strategy during one of the most dangerous periods in human history. The installation had been designed as a command and communication center for coordinating nuclear response scenarios, staffed by specially selected military personnel who had been prepared to survive and operate independently for months or years in the event of a nuclear war that might destroy most of civilization and require the survivors to rebuild American military capabilities from underground strongholds. But the documents also revealed that Site Bravo 7 had served functions far beyond its official mission as a nuclear command facility, operating as a research and development center for experimental military technology that was considered too sensitive for development at conventional military installations, where security might be compromised by foreign intelligence services. The facility had housed programs developing advanced communication systems, survival equipment, defensive technologies, and weapon systems that were decades ahead of anything available to conventional military forces and represented billions of dollars in research and development investment. Rex's systematic investigation of the facility led to the discovery of storage areas that contained prototypes and examples of the experimental technology that had been developed at Site Bravo 7, including communication devices that could operate independently of conventional networks, survival equipment designed for extreme environments, and defensive systems that could protect small groups of personnel from nuclear, chemical, and biological threats. Many of the items appeared to be in excellent condition despite decades of storage, preserved by the facility's controlled environment and sophisticated climate management systems that had continued operating automatically throughout the years of abandonment. But perhaps most significantly for Daniel's immediate circumstances and long-term future, Rex's extraordinary senses led to the discovery of the facility's financial storage areas, secure vaults that contained assets that had been intended to support Site Bravo 7's operations indefinitely in the event of a nuclear war or other national emergency that might cut the facility off from normal government funding and supply channels. The vaults held substantial quantities of gold bars, silver coins, currency from various countries, and bearer bonds that represented a financial reserve worth tens of millions of dollars at current market values. The facility's sophisticated communication center contained equipment that was still functional and connected to satellite networks that allowed Daniel to eventually contact outside authorities once the blizzard subsided enough to restore reliable connections to the outside world. His report of discovering Site Bravo 7 created immediate interest and concern from multiple federal agencies, including the Department of Defense, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of Energy, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, all of whom had incomplete records of Cold War-era facilities and were eager to recover classified materials and valuable assets that had been thought permanently lost. The multi-agency investigation that followed Rex's remarkable discovery revealed that Site Bravo 7 had been hastily abandoned during the Cuban Missile Crisis when shifting strategic priorities and the need for immediate military resources had led to the consolidation of nuclear command facilities at other locations that were considered more strategically important for the immediate crisis. The evacuation had been so rushed and chaotic that most of the facility's contents had been left in place, with the intention of returning to recover classified materials and valuable equipment once the immediate crisis had passed and normal operations could be resumed. But bureaucratic confusion, changing military priorities, and the rapid evolution of nuclear strategy during the 1960s had resulted in Site Bravo 7 being effectively forgotten by the federal agencies responsible for such facilities, with responsibility for the installation falling through cracks in the federal bureaucracy that had never been adequately addressed or resolved. The site had remained sealed and operational for more than 60 years, waiting for someone with the right combination of desperate need, military training, and extraordinary luck to rediscover its existence and value to both national security and historical understanding of America's Cold War preparations. Daniel's full cooperation with federal authorities in securing and cataloging the facility's extensive contents earned him substantial financial compensation, as well as official recognition for his role in recovering classified materials and experimental technology that contributed to ongoing national defense research programs and historical understanding of Cold War military strategy. But more importantly, for his personal recovery and sense of purpose, the discovery provided him with a mission and sense of meaning that had been missing from his life since leaving military service and struggling with the transition to civilian life that had proven so difficult for many combat veterans. The substantial financial assets recovered from Site Bravo 7's secure vaults provided Daniel with the resources necessary to establish comprehensive support programs for military working dogs and their handlers, addressing the unique challenges faced by veterans who had served with animal partners in combat roles, and recognizing the special nature of these partnerships that often continued to be important for both human and animal welfare long after formal military service ended. Rex's remarkable abilities and his crucial role in the discovery inspired extensive research into how retired military working dogs could continue serving veterans and their communities in new capacities that utilized their training and natural abilities. Daniel's survival story became a widely studied case study in both survival psychology and the importance of human-animal partnerships in extreme situations, demonstrating how the bond between experienced military personnel and their animal companions could overcome challenges that would defeat individuals operating alone, even with extensive training and resources. His willingness to trust Rex's instincts during the life-threatening blizzard emergency exemplified the kind of partnership and mutual dependence that had made military working dog teams so effective in combat situations throughout American military history. The Site Bravo 7 facility was eventually developed into a unique combination museum and research center that preserved both its important Cold War history and its role in Daniel and Rex's remarkable survival story, providing visitors with unprecedented insights into classified military operations and the ongoing challenges faced by veterans transitioning from military to civilian life. The facility's educational programs emphasized the crucial importance of military working dogs in national defense and the extraordinary bonds that developed between handlers and their animal partners during shared service in dangerous and challenging environments. Rex's growing fame as the dog who had discovered a forgotten Cold War facility led to his involvement in archaeological and historical investigation projects throughout the United States, with his exceptional detection abilities being used to locate other abandoned military sites and recover classified materials that had been lost or forgotten over the decades since various conflicts ended and military priorities shifted. The German Shepherd's work contributed to significant historical discoveries and helped preserve military artifacts and documents that might otherwise have been lost forever to the elements or bureaucratic neglect. Daniel's personal transformation from struggling homeless veteran to successful advocate for military working dog programs provided him with renewed purpose and deep connection to the military community that had been central to his identity during his years of active service, but had seemed lost during his difficult transition to civilian life. His work with federal agencies and veteran organizations helped improve understanding of the unique challenges faced by military working dog handlers and led to the development of better support programs for these specialized veterans who often faced additional complications in their post-service adjustment. The extensive research conducted on Rex's remarkable abilities contributed significantly to scientific understanding of canine cognition and sensory capabilities, leading to improvements in military working dog training programs and better techniques for maximizing the potential of human-animal partnerships in various professional and emergency response applications. The work inspired new approaches to training dogs for search and rescue operations, archaeological investigation, therapeutic support for trauma survivors, and numerous other applications that utilize the extraordinary capabilities of properly trained canines. Daniel's collaboration with international military working dog organizations led to the development of comprehensive programs that address the global challenges faced by veterans who had served with animal partners in various conflicts around the world, creating support networks that recognize the unique nature of these partnerships and the special needs of both human and animal veterans, regardless of their country of origin or specific military service history. These programs provided resources for medical care, continued training, and appropriate placement of retired military working dogs while supporting their former handlers through the often difficult transition to civilian life. The annual international conference that Daniel organized at the Site Bravo 7 facility brought together military working dog handlers, researchers, veterinarians, and veterans from around the world who shared experiences and developed new approaches to supporting these specialized partnerships throughout their careers and into retirement. Rex's presence at these events provided inspiration and demonstrated the ongoing potential of retired military working dogs to contribute to their communities in new and meaningful ways that honored their service while providing continued purpose and stimulation. Daniel's public speaking about his harrowing survival experience and Rex's remarkable discovery helped raise awareness about the challenges faced by military working dog teams and the critical importance of providing appropriate support for both human and animal veterans who had served their countries with distinction in dangerous and demanding roles. His story demonstrated that recovery from combat trauma was possible even in cases that seemed hopeless, and that the right combination of purpose, partnership, and community support could help even the most damaged individuals rebuild meaningful and productive lives. The massive blizzard that had nearly killed Daniel and Rex lasted for 3 full days, during which they remained safe and comfortable in the forgotten facility that Rex's extraordinary instincts had helped them discover through what could only be described as a miracle of animal intelligence and determination. The storm deposited more than 8 feet of snow in the surrounding mountains, creating conditions that would have been absolutely fatal for anyone trapped in the open without adequate shelter and supplies, confirming that Rex's discovery had indeed saved both their lives. When rescue teams finally reached their location, guided by signals from the facility's sophisticated communication equipment and GPS coordinates that Daniel was able to provide once satellite connections were restored, they found both man and dog in excellent condition, despite having survived one of the worst winter storms in Montana's recorded history. The rescue operation brought additional media attention to their incredible discovery and helped federal authorities understand the full scope and importance of what Rex had uncovered in the abandoned Cold War facility. The months following their survival and discovery were filled with extensive debriefings, security investigations, and complex negotiations as various federal agencies worked to reclaim the classified materials and valuable assets that had been forgotten in Site Bravo 7 for more than 60 years. Daniel's complete cooperation with these efforts earned him both substantial financial compensation and official recognition for his role in recovering significant national security assets and contributing to historical understanding of Cold War military strategies and preparations. But perhaps more importantly for Daniel's personal recovery and sense of self-worth, the experience of surviving the blizzard and discovering the facility had reconnected him with his sense of purpose and his pride in his military service, helping him overcome the depression, isolation, and feelings of worthlessness that had characterized his life since returning from Afghanistan and struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. Rex's crucial role in their survival provided powerful evidence of the continuing value of their partnership and inspired Daniel to develop programs that would help other veterans maintain and benefit from relationships with their former military working dog partners. The Daniel Carter Foundation for Military Working Dogs quickly became a leading advocate for better support and recognition of the invaluable service provided by military animals and their handlers, developing comprehensive programs that address the unique needs of these specialized partnerships during both active service and post-military transition. The Foundation's work contributed to significant improvements in military working dog care, training, retirement programs, and veteran support services throughout the United States military and veteran communities. Rex's inspiring story became the subject of children's books, documentary films, and educational programs that helped the general public understand the important role played by military working dogs in national defense and the extraordinary bonds that developed between these remarkable animals and their human partners during shared service in dangerous and challenging environments. The German Shepherd's calm intelligence and remarkable abilities made him a natural ambassador for military working dog programs and an inspiration for young people considering military service or careers working with animals. Daniel's deepening relationship with Rex continued to be central to everything he accomplished through the Foundation's expanding work, with the dog's presence providing stability and comfort during the emotionally demanding task of helping other veterans and military working dogs navigate the complex challenges of post-service life while building new relationships and finding purpose in civilian communities. Their partnership served as a living example of the therapeutic potential of human-animal bonds and the extraordinary results that could be achieved when such partnerships were properly supported, valued, and understood by society. The Site Bravo 7 facility became a major tourist attraction and educational destination that drew visitors from around the world who came to learn about Cold War history and the remarkable survival story that had led to its rediscovery after more than 60 years of abandonment and bureaucratic neglect. The facility's preservation as a historical site ensured that the advanced technology and important documents contained within would be available for ongoing research and education about America's defense preparations during one of the most dangerous and uncertain periods in human history. Rex's remarkable legacy extended far beyond his individual achievements and fame, inspiring significant improvements in military working dog programs and creating new opportunities for retired military animals to continue serving their communities in detection, therapy, and educational roles that honored their training while providing continued purpose and stimulation. The German Shepherd's extraordinary abilities and his life-saving partnership with Daniel had demonstrated the untapped potential of human-animal cooperation in addressing challenges that neither species could overcome alone, even with extensive training and resources. Daniel's personal healing journey reached a significant milestone when he was able to reconnect with other members of his former Special Forces unit who had also struggled with post-war adjustment challenges, creating a support network based on shared experiences and mutual understanding of the unique stresses associated with classified military operations and combat service in hostile environments. These renewed relationships provided him with the sense of belonging and brotherhood that had been missing from his civilian life and helped him understand that his struggles were not unique or signs of personal failure. The Foundation's expanding work included comprehensive support for active duty military working dog teams, providing resources and assistance that helped improve performance and welfare for both human and animal partners during their service deployments in various theaters of operation around the world. The programs recognized that effective support for military working dogs required addressing the needs of their handlers as integrated teams rather than as separate individuals with distinct and unrelated needs. Daniel's testimony before congressional committees and his work with military leadership helped shape important legislation that improved benefits and support services for military working dog handlers, recognizing the unique nature of their service and the special challenges they faced during transition to civilian life. His first-hand experience as both a handler and a veteran who had struggled with readjustment provided valuable insights that influenced policy development at the highest levels of government and military command. The extensive research conducted on Rex's survival instincts and remarkable detection abilities contributed to scientific understanding of how animals process environmental information during extreme conditions, leading to improvements in search and rescue techniques and better understanding of how to train animals for emergency response situations and disaster relief operations. The work influenced training programs for civilian as well as military working dogs throughout the country and internationally. Daniel's marriage to Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinarian who specialized in military working dog care and had been deeply impressed by Rex's story and abilities, represented both personal healing and professional partnership that significantly enhanced the Foundation's ability to serve the complex needs of military working dog teams. Their relationship demonstrated how shared commitment to serving others could provide the foundation for strong personal bonds that enhanced both individual recovery and community impact. The annual Rex Memorial Day celebration at Site Bravo 7 became a major event that brought together military working dog teams, veterans, researchers, and families from throughout the country and internationally who gathered to honor the service and sacrifice of military animals and their human partners while sharing experiences and developing new approaches to support. Daniel's speeches at these events always emphasized Rex's role not just in their survival, but in inspiring ongoing efforts to improve understanding and support for all military working dog teams. Rex's innovative training techniques and behavioral patterns were studied extensively and incorporated into training programs for military, law enforcement, and search and rescue dogs throughout the world, with his approach to detection and problem-solving providing insights that improved the effectiveness of human-animal partnerships in various professional applications and emergency situations. The research contributed to better understanding of how to select, train, and deploy working dogs for maximum effectiveness in challenging and dangerous environments. The broad cultural impact of Daniel and Rex's story extended far beyond the military community, inspiring books, films and educational programs that help the general public understand the important contributions made by military working dogs and the extraordinary bonds that develop between these animals and their human partners during shared service and continued partnership. Their story served as a powerful example of resilience, partnership, mutual dependence, and the possibility of finding hope and purpose even in the most desperate circumstances. Daniel's ongoing work with international veterans organizations led to the development of comprehensive programs that addressed the global challenges faced by military working dog teams from various countries, creating support networks that recognized the universal nature of the bonds between soldiers and their animal partners, regardless of nationality, language, or specific military service history. These programs facilitated sharing of techniques, resources, and best practices for supporting military working dog teams throughout their careers and into retirement. The Foundation's groundbreaking research initiatives contributed significantly to scientific understanding of post-traumatic stress disorder in both humans and animals, leading to improved treatment approaches that address the interconnected nature of trauma recovery in military working dog teams, and recognized that effective therapy often required treating human and animal partners together rather than as separate individuals with distinct and unrelated needs. The work demonstrated the therapeutic value of maintaining partnerships between veterans and their former military working dog partners whenever possible. Rex's remarkable story continued to inspire people around the world who learned about his crucial role in Daniel's survival and the discovery of Site Bravo 7, serving as a powerful example of how animal intelligence, loyalty, and determination could overcome obstacles that would defeat humans operating alone, even with extensive training and resources. The German Shepherd's calm courage and extraordinary abilities provided hope and inspiration for people facing their own survival challenges and recovery journeys, proving that partnerships built on trust and mutual dependence could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The comprehensive educational programs developed by the Foundation helped raise public awareness about the ongoing sacrifices made by military working dog teams and the complex challenges they faced during both active service and transition to civilian life. These programs were implemented in schools, community centers, and military installations throughout the country and internationally, helping civilians better understand the service and sacrifice of military animals and their human partners, while encouraging support for veterans and their continuing needs. Daniel's relationship with Rex remained absolutely central to everything he accomplished through the Foundation's expanding work, with the dog's presence providing stability and inspiration during the emotionally demanding task of helping other veterans and military working dogs navigate the challenges of post-service life while building new relationships and finding renewed purpose in civilian communities. Their partnership served as a living example of the therapeutic potential of human-animal bonds and the extraordinary results that could be achieved when such partnerships were properly supported and valued by society. The advanced technology recovered from Site Bravo 7 contributed to ongoing defense research programs and provided valuable insights into Cold War-era military preparations that enhanced understanding of American strategic thinking during one of the most dangerous and uncertain periods in human history. The facility's preservation as a research site ensured that its technological and historical treasures would continue contributing to national defense and historical understanding for generations to come, honoring the memory of those who had served there during its operational period. Rex's profound legacy influenced military working dog programs throughout the world, with his survival instincts and detection techniques being studied and incorporated into training programs for dogs who worked in extreme environments and emergency situations where their abilities could mean the difference between life and death for the humans who depended on them. The research inspired new understanding of how animals could contribute to human survival and safety in ways that had never been systematically explored or developed by military or civilian emergency response organizations. The international impact of Daniel and Rex's discovery extended far beyond American borders, inspiring similar searches for forgotten military installations in countries throughout Europe, Asia, and other regions where Cold War activities had created networks of classified facilities that had been abandoned or forgotten as political situations changed and military priorities shifted. Rex's detection techniques and the systematic approach to investigating abandoned military sites became models for archaeological and historical investigation teams working to recover lost military history and classified materials from various conflicts and periods of international tension. Daniel's work with NATO allies and international defense organizations led to collaborative efforts to locate and secure other forgotten facilities that might contain valuable technology, historical documents, or financial assets that had been lost to bureaucratic confusion and changing political priorities over the decades since the Cold War ended. These international partnerships demonstrated how individual discoveries could contribute to broader understanding of military history and help preserve important artifacts and documents that might otherwise be lost forever to the elements or deliberate destruction. The scientific research inspired by Rex's remarkable abilities led to breakthrough discoveries in animal cognition and sensory capabilities that had applications far beyond military working dog programs, contributing to advances in search and rescue operations, medical detection programs, and therapeutic applications for people with various disabilities and medical conditions. Universities and research institutions around the world studied Rex's techniques and developed new training methods that maximize the potential of human-animal partnerships in numerous professional and therapeutic applications. The success of the Daniel Carter Foundation inspired the creation of similar organizations in other countries, each adapted to local military traditions and veteran support needs, but sharing the common goal of supporting military working dog teams and their handlers throughout their careers and into retirement. These international foundations created a global network of support and resources that transcended national boundaries and political differences, united by recognition of the universal nature of the bonds between military personnel and their animal partners. Daniel's autobiography, Saved by My Partner, How Rex and I Found Hope in the Coldest Place on Earth, became an international bestseller that was translated into dozens of languages and inspired readers around the world who faced their own struggles with trauma, isolation, and loss of purpose. The book's success provided additional resources for the Foundation's work and helped spread awareness of military working dog programs and the challenges faced by veterans transitioning to civilian life. The Hollywood film adaptation of Daniel and Rex's story, starring a major action star as Daniel and featuring Rex himself in key scenes, brought their remarkable survival and discovery story to audiences worldwide and generated millions of dollars in additional funding for military working dog support programs. The film's success demonstrated the universal appeal of stories about courage, partnership, and the triumph of hope over despair, while educating audiences about the important role of military working dogs in national defense. Rex's appearances on television talk shows, news programs, and documentary productions made him one of the most famous dogs in America and helped educate the public about the capabilities and needs of military working dogs throughout their careers and into retirement. The German Shepherd's calm intelligence and remarkable abilities made him an ideal spokesperson for animal welfare causes and military veteran support programs, demonstrating the ongoing potential of retired military animals to contribute to society in new and meaningful ways. The educational curriculum developed around Daniel and Rex's story was implemented in schools throughout the United States and internationally, helping young people understand the importance of military service, the value of human-animal partnerships, and the possibilities that exist for overcoming seemingly impossible challenges through determination, courage, and willingness to trust in partnership with others. These programs inspired many young people to consider careers in military service, veterinary medicine, and animal training and care. Daniel's relationship with Rex evolved and deepened as they aged together, with the dog's advancing years bringing new challenges, but also demonstrating the enduring nature of their partnership and mutual dependence. As Rex's physical capabilities gradually declined with age, Daniel ensured that his faithful companion received the best possible veterinary care while continuing to serve as an inspiration and ambassador for military working dog programs, proving that the value of these partnerships extended far beyond their period of active service. The advanced medical care provided to Rex through the Foundation's veterinary programs helped extend his life and maintain his quality of life well beyond what would have been possible without the resources and expertise that Daniel's success had made available. Rex's care became a model for military working dog retirement programs worldwide, demonstrating how proper medical attention, appropriate exercise, and continued meaningful activity could help retired military animals live healthy and productive lives for many years after their formal service ended. The annual International Symposium, hosted at Site Bravo 7, became the premier gathering for researchers, practitioners, and advocates working to improve military working dog programs and veteran support services worldwide. The symposium brought together experts from dozens of countries who shared research findings, best practices, and innovative approaches to supporting military working dog teams throughout their careers and into retirement, creating a global community of knowledge and mutual support. Rex's final years were marked by continued service as an ambassador and inspiration for military working dog programs, with his presence at foundation events and educational programs continuing to move audiences and demonstrate the extraordinary bonds that could develop between humans and animals through shared service and mutual trust. Even as his physical capabilities declined, Rex's intelligence and calm demeanor made him an effective teacher and inspiration for young people and adult audiences who learned from his remarkable story. When Rex finally passed away at the age of 14, having lived well beyond the typical lifespan for German Shepherds due to the excellent care he received, his death was mourned by people around the world who had been inspired by his story and contributions to military working dog programs and veteran support services. The funeral service held at Site Bravo 7 was attended by hundreds of military working dog handlers, veterans and supporters who came to honor the remarkable life and service of an extraordinary animal. Rex's burial at Site Bravo 7 in a special memorial garden created to honor military working dogs and their contributions to national defense and veteran support, ensured that his legacy would be preserved and remembered for future generations. The memorial became a place of pilgrimage for military working dog handlers and veterans who came to pay their respects and draw inspiration from Rex's remarkable story of survival, discovery, and service. The Rex Memorial Foundation, established after his death to continue his legacy of supporting military working dogs and their handlers, became a major force in improving animal welfare programs and veteran support services worldwide. The Foundation's work ensured that Rex's contributions to understanding human-animal partnerships and their therapeutic potential would continue to benefit people and animals for generations to come, honoring his memory through continued service to others. Daniel's continued leadership of the original foundation, now renamed in Rex's honor, provided him with ongoing purpose and connection to the military community, while allowing him to process his grief over losing his faithful companion through continued service to others who faced similar challenges. His work with military working dog teams helped him understand that his partnership with Rex was part of a much larger tradition of service and sacrifice that connected him to generations of military personnel and their animal partners. The scientific research conducted on Rex's abilities continued to yield important discoveries about animal cognition and sensory capabilities long after his death, with researchers analyzing data and observations collected during his lifetime to develop new understanding of how animals processed information and made decisions in complex and challenging environments. This research contributed to improvements in animal training programs and therapeutic applications that helped both animals and humans achieve better outcomes in various professional and personal applications. The international network of military working dog support organizations, inspired by Daniel and Rex's story, continued to grow and evolve, adapting to changing military needs and advancing understanding of animal behavior and welfare, while maintaining focus on the fundamental importance of supporting military working dog teams throughout their careers and into retirement. These organizations demonstrated how individual stories of courage and partnership could inspire global movements for positive change and improved understanding between species. Daniel's eventual remarriage to Dr. Sarah Chen, formalized 10 years after their first meeting at a military working dog conference, represented both personal healing and professional partnership that enhanced their shared commitment to supporting military working dog teams and advancing scientific understanding of human-animal partnerships. Their relationship demonstrated how shared purpose and mutual respect could provide the foundation for strong personal bonds that enhanced both individual fulfillment and community impact. The children's book series, based on Rex's adventures, written by Daniel and Dr. Chen, became popular educational tools that helped young people understand the importance of loyalty, courage, and partnership while learning about military history and the role of animals in national defense. The book's success provided additional resources for foundation programs while inspiring a new generation to appreciate the contributions of military working dogs and their handlers. The Rex Training Center, established at Site Bravo 7 as a specialized facility for training military working dogs and their handlers, became a model for similar programs worldwide and demonstrated how historical sites could be repurposed to serve contemporary needs while preserving their historical significance. The center's programs combined traditional military working dog training with innovative approaches based on research inspired by Rex's remarkable abilities and the understanding gained from studying his partnership with Daniel. Daniel's speaking engagements and educational programs continued throughout his later years, with his presentations about survival, partnership, and recovery inspiring audiences worldwide who face their own challenges with trauma, loss, and the search for meaning and purpose in their lives. His willingness to share his story honestly and openly helped reduce stigma associated with post-traumatic stress disorder and encouraged others to seek help and support rather than struggling alone. The documentary series chronicling Daniel and Rex's story and its ongoing impact won multiple awards and helped educate audiences worldwide about military working dog programs, veteran support services, and the therapeutic potential of human-animal partnerships in addressing trauma and promoting healing. The series' success demonstrated the continuing public interest in stories about courage, partnership, and the triumph of hope over despair, while generating resources for foundation programs. The permanent exhibition at the Smithsonian Institution, featuring artifacts from Site Bravo 7 and displays about Daniel and Rex's discovery, became one of the museum's most popular attractions, educating millions of visitors about Cold War history and the important role of military working dogs in American defense capabilities. The exhibition's interactive displays allowed visitors to experience simulated versions of Rex's detection work and understand the remarkable abilities that had made his discoveries possible. Daniel's advocacy work with congressional leaders and military officials continued to influence policy development and resource allocation for military working dog programs and veteran support services, ensuring that lessons learned from his and Rex's experiences would benefit current and future generations of military personnel and their animal partners. His testimony and recommendations helped shape legislation that improved benefits and support services while recognizing the unique nature of military working dog partnerships. The International Conference on Human-Animal Partnerships in Military and Emergency Response Applications, held annually at various locations worldwide, became a premier forum for sharing research findings and best practices inspired by Daniel and Rex's story and the scientific research that followed their remarkable discovery. The conference brought together researchers, practitioners, and advocates from dozens of countries who worked to improve understanding and support for human-animal partnerships in various professional applications. Daniel's later years were marked by continued dedication to supporting military working dog teams and advocating for improved veteran support services, with his work taking him around the world to speak at conferences, visit military installations, and consult with organizations working to improve conditions for military animals and their handlers. His expertise and experience, gained through personal struggle and ultimate triumph, made him a sought-after advisor and speaker who could connect with audiences through shared experience and understanding. The Rex Medal, established by the Foundation to honor outstanding service by military working dogs and their handlers, became one of the most prestigious awards in the military working dog community and recognized partnerships that demonstrated exceptional courage, dedication, and effectiveness in service to their countries and communities. The medal's recipients represented the best traditions of military working dog teams and served as inspiration for current and future generations of handlers and their animal partners. The research institute established at Site Bravo 7 became a leading center for studying human-animal partnerships and their applications in military, therapeutic, and emergency response contexts, attracting researchers from around the world who came to study the facility's unique resources and contribute to advancing understanding of animal cognition and behavior. The Institute's work ensured that Site Bravo 7 continued to serve important purposes related to national defense and scientific understanding long after its original Cold War mission had ended. Daniel's final years were spent in continued service to the military working dog community and veteran support organizations, with his work providing him with sustained purpose and connection to the values and relationships that had shaped his life since his military service and partnership with Rex. His legacy of service and advocacy ensured that the lessons learned from his remarkable journey would continue to benefit others who faced similar challenges and opportunities for growth and contribution. And if this incredible story of survival against impossible odds, extraordinary discovery, and the unbreakable bond between a veteran and his faithful companion has amazed you as much as it has amazed me, then you understand why tales like Daniel and Rex's are so important to share with the world, and why they continue to inspire people facing their own seemingly insurmountable challenges. This journey from desperation and isolation to purpose and recognition reminds us that our darkest moments can become the foundation for our greatest discoveries, that the animals in our lives often possess extraordinary abilities that can guide us toward possibilities we never imagined existed, and that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hidden beneath the surface of our most difficult challenges, waiting for the right moment and the right partnership to bring them into the light, where they can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities and our understanding of what's possible when we refuse to give up hope. Daniel Carter's transformation from homeless veteran struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder to guardian of one of America's most important Cold War secrets proves that survival is just the beginning of what's possible when we refuse to give up hope. That individual recovery can become the foundation for community transformation, and that the courage to trust our animal companions can unlock secrets that change not just our own lives, but our understanding of history itself and the bonds that connect all living beings in relationships of mutual support and unconditional love. Rex's remarkable abilities show us that the bonds between humans and animals can transcend ordinary companionship to become partnerships that save lives, change history, and heal wounds that have been festering for generations, proving that loyalty and devotion know no boundaries between species, and that the courage to trust in partnership can overcome any obstacle. If this tale of courage, survival, and the power of faithful partnership has inspired you to believe in the possibility of transformation even in the most desperate circumstances, please hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that prove ordinary people and extraordinary animals can accomplish amazing things when they work together with determination and unshakable faith in each other. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss these. Powerful reminders that no matter how hopeless your situation might seem, life has the power to surprise you with miracles that come from the most unexpected places and change everything you thought you knew about survival, purpose, and the incredible potential that exists within every partnership built on trust, loyalty, and unconditional love that transcends all boundaries and limitations. Share this story with anyone who needs to hear that their current struggles have meaning, that their pain can become the foundation for helping others, and that sometimes salvation comes with 4 legs, extraordinary senses, and an unshakable belief in the human capacity for growth, healing, and redemption that can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities, and our understanding of what's possible when we refuse to give up hope, even in the darkest moments of our lives. Remembering that every ending can become a new beginning, and every partnership built on love and trust has the power to change the world in ways we never imagined possible.